Start the finance committee meeting at 6:15. Call to order. Meeting minutes. So we have 3 meeting minutes to approve here. Are they all in one document?
Nope, 3 different meetings.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And different people available on each one. So.
Yeah. Can I get a motion on July 6th?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes of July 6th.
Second?
Any discussion, any adjustments, edits, anything? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next one is July 20th.
And I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of July 20th as well.
Be sure I wasn't here for that one. I just wanted to check.
Any discussion, any comments, corrections, changes? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, and the final one is from September 25th.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of September 25th.
Do I have a second? Okay, discussion. I guess we don't have a second.
Well, I have issue with the word interrogation. I don't think we ever said that the.
It was
select-
said,
I said it.
yeah.
Yeah, it was me.
Okay, then I missed that.
He was being,
Buddy.
what's the term I wanna use? Over the top of like saying like worst case scenario and like, but he did say interrogation, yes.
Yeah, I just, that's the way I felt, that's all.
Yeah, it's, some interviews can be interrogations, not all,
Yep, thank you.
been in plenty of them.
I know Jen arrived late and that's not pointed out here.
I know they did in the select board meeting minutes, but not the FinCom meeting minutes.
Right, so I think we should put that in, right? And another question was raised whether or not there is value to changing the term. It should say the select board raised the question whether or not there was a question to change the term, because we didn't ask.
No.
And at that point, it did say, the select board did say that they were gonna do, that was gonna be a continued conversation with the moderator.
Yeah, I remember that. yeah.
Yep.
For the term. You mean for the term?
Yeah, for the
Yeah.
term, yep. But that,
Conversation
it
was
was
not
mentioned
done.
that it was gonna be a continued conversation with the moderator. I did rewatch the meeting today. I do not ever remember us stating that we would rather be advisory and not be in charge of the budget.
What does that statement mean?
The notice says, it was noticed that the finance committee would like to serve as an advisory committee and not be responsible for balancing the budget. I rewatched it today because I didn't remember that being said, and I still can't find it. So if somebody can show me where, maybe I blocked it out. I think if anything, we were all just the opposite, fighting to,
No, at the last thing that was said about that was that we were fine with the budget being done within the town administrator
Yes.
office.
that is correct. However, we still all said we wanted a say in the final budget that got brought up.
A say, yes, but at the end of the day, it would be the town administrator's budget being brought.
But it was not noted that the finance committee brought that up. It was the select board that brought that up, not the finance committee.
If I may, the comment was made that in the past, the finance committee served an advisory role, and then in subsequent years, they took on more of an active role because of, issues with town administration. And the comment was said that you would like to go back to having that advisory role now that we have a strong town administrator in place.
The minutes from 9:25.
I don't remember the
I can
exact
say,
wording of it,
I've been
but-
doing this now for 11 years, and I don't think we've ever had a year where we were advisory.
That was said at the meeting.
Yeah,
I don't know who
minutes
said it,
of
because
the
I did not hear it.
25th meeting.
I remember the
September.
specific word being advisory, but I definitely, advisory explains what I thought the overall direction was that we wanted to go.
I don't think, well, you guys can make that, I don't remember it being said in the meeting. I rewatched it today, and I still do not.
All right, so I have a question. So I'm sorry I missed that meeting, but I was totally confused by the emails of when the meeting was gonna be. And I didn't see the posting for the sheet that said the meeting's today on that day, and I was already doing something else. So anyways, do these things reflect, or this document, the meeting notes reflect what was, well, it reflects what was said there, but
Right.
what is the list of it said, I'm reading the first thing here, and in the, something, they said that things that they wanted to change? That they think they should change?
Any of those changes, Tommy, were noted in the meeting minutes. There really were not
It was two
many,
changes.
yeah, there weren't really many language changes. It was more of a discussion. And the proposed bylaw with the changes is available on the town's website.
Right.
Can we bring that up on
but
that
can we-
screen?
Okay, I hate to keep bringing this up, but if we're the committee supposed to, can't we get that in writing? Why do we have to go on the website why do we as the committee have to go on the website to look at it? Can't we get that printed so we can look? So when you're sitting here looking, here's the thing you sent out with the, is this it?
I certainly can. I didn't know that this was gonna be a topic of discussion tonight, so
Oh,
I
I
did
know, I'm not
print
saying,
it.
we're talking only because of the minutes.
Right.
And I'm just asking questions, as I said to you on the phone when I asked you, I apologize for missing that meeting, cause I wanted to be there, but I got confused, so that's what happens, I guess, when you get older, is that true, Peter?
Absolutely.
All right,
It's one of the first things that happens
I
to
have an
me.
excuse then.
Amongst others.
But anyways, I'd like to see and we had these same discussions last year when the bylaw committee came and said, what is it why do you wanna change this or that, or what is the change, so we know what we're talking about? But, I mean, I think and again, I'll say this again, I've said it quite a few times already, the town bylaw, as it's written in the book, that I think this is still current right now, cause it hasn't changed yet, but the damn thing's worked for how many years now, and it says right in there that we're supposed to go over the budget, so.
And we're still going to go over the
Right.
budget, that's not changing.
Right.
The only thing that, one of the major changes, Tom, there was two changes, and everybody can correct me. One of them was how we got, who was actually in charge of making a budget. So, the way they wanna present this new town bylaw is that the town administrator is responsible for the budget. And then there was a ton of discussion, Tommy, if you watch the meeting minutes, about who then is in charge. And Alex said he wanted it written that the selectmen are in charge, so it wasn't just kicked around at the time when it all came to crunch time. If Austin left or there was an issue, could it change? So that's, we wanted specifics, am I right?
I wanted it documented, so
I don't think Alex said he wanted it to be the select board, he just said he wanted it.
I want.
Specific.
However we
We wanted a list
decided,
of-
yeah.
yes,
However we decided to go, I wanted to make sure it was documented in the bylaw that that person or that group was therefore responsible for creating the budget and bringing it to town meeting. And then therefore, we would be a part of it, of course, and we will be, part of it will be, included in all discussion, and we will give our advice and work with the town departments to, hear them out, help out the town and everything. But at town meeting, it would be brought forth by the town administrator. If the town administrator is not there or not here, or however, the select board would then be responsible for bringing it to the town meeting. If we don't agree with it, we would just say that we don't agree with it at town meeting. So, you know, I don't think it's gonna have any real different, I don't think it's gonna change the value of us as a committee to affect the budget, because if the town administrator or the select board is doing something that we don't agree with at town meeting, we would just say, we don't support this budget. And if the town hears that we don't support the budget, I would think that it'd be pretty tough to pass a budget therefore. But
Well, so don't we, as a committee, vote to recommend approval?
yes.
Or not?
yes,
So that's our action, that's the thing.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
That we will do when it comes time for the town meeting. And that will then be when the moderator says, report from the finance committee.
Right.
We will say that the town finance committee recommends approval of the budget, or this article.
Yeah.
We do that for all of them, so that, to me, that's being advisory.
Right.
That's what we're here to do. We gather all the information, we listen to all the discussion, we ask the questions about the managers.
Give recommendations.
And we give recommendations that this, we feel very comfortable in it being able to say, well, last year, this was a little bit lower than it is now, or it's a little bit too high, it doesn't trend in the way that it should. And we make those, after we get all that out, we make the recommendation. Once the recommendation is done.
Did I not hear you say we would get the budget 60 days before the town meeting?
Yes, you heard that.
That was, that was a general statement, I think. It wasn't like.
I think that would be dictated by whatever the bylaw would say.
But
So-
that was,
so I
but
gave
that
like a
was what you
sample
had, but
timeline,
that's
right?
what you had said. The current term was we would get it 60 days before,
If everything was going right.
if everything works out.
So right now. sorry,
60 days before is about when we got it last year from that office, and look at how rushed we were.
Right, so,
60 days before you got a draft budget, I'm hoping to finalize a budget. 60 days before.
I get it, but we're not able to meet with departments because I think.
no.
Mike, can I join?
Yeah, go for it, yeah.
But I thought the whole thing is the select board was concerned that if we met with town departments, we couldn't override it because, you know, that undercuts all those things that were said.
Well, wait, is this the new proposed one?
No, he didn't make the changes yet.
So, do we have the opportunity to say, as a committee, do we have the opportunity to be able to say, no, we're not gonna let you spend that money? Or is it our responsibility just to be able to say that our collection is advising that the town floor not approve that?
Well,
And
if
then
you
the
don't
town
approve
approves it?
something, then you should have an argument why you don't approve it and explain to the people why, so they can make a decision. If you just say, gee, well, we're not in favor of this, you would have to make your argument to convince them that they shouldn't be spending the money. Because
Sure.
that's what our job is, to operate on their behalf.
Sure, what would be the reason for that recommendation not to approve? I suppose you could go the other way, and could say the recommendation to approve should be explained probably as well, because we're recommending that the town spend the money. I'm just,
Well, you could make that argument, but you don't have to if
No,
you
no,
say
I
you
under-
wanna do it.
no,
But
but if you
I don't
don't,
think I guess this all breaks down to what everybody feels the,
no, that's not me.
role of the finance committee is. If the role of the finance committee is as advisory to the person that's making these things, what,
The role of the finance committee is in the bylaw. Read the bylaw. It
But we're
says
not
it
in the bylaw.
we are.
Right.
The whole point here is that the bylaw is changing. So
Well,
you
maybe
can't-
it's not gonna if we vote not to.
Sure. Well, it's
Well-
not up to us to vote the bylaw.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
that's
up to the
not-
town.
It is up to us.
It's up to the town.
It's up to the
voters.
town,
I get it.
I voted to town meeting.
yeah.
I'm
But
saying it's
not
not
at-
to the
okay,
finance
Can
committee.
I wanna add one more comment, and then maybe I'll shut up, but maybe not. This came up a number of years ago.
over under that he's gonna shut up.
No, I just wanna add this so you understand what's being discussed here.
Yeah.
This came up, I don't know, well, it's gotta be more than 10 or 12 years ago, maybe 15 years ago. The same discussion of who's supposed to put the budget to the town meeting, and the selectmen were basically doing it or partly do whatever. And the finance committee at that point in time went into that finance committee handbook under the state laws. And it says the finance committee is supposed to present the budget to the town meeting.
Right.
And that's where that came from, or has come from. And as far as I know, that's what's been happening ever since that point.
The select board thinks that submit means we tie it up in a pretty bow, walk in and go, woo-hoo, here it is. And it's what Austin does. Now, I know I sat for the years before we had a town administrator, and we and the select board sat down and did it. I was here when Margaret was here, and we worked with Margaret to finalize the budget. I was here when Mike was here, when we worked with him to finalize the budget. I was here with Ron when we did the budget.
So the finance committee's been doing I've been doing a lot of budgets in town, and the finance committee always was the final step, or not the final, but the over and presented to the town meeting.
And we still would be the final step because we recommend at the town meeting.
Correct.
Yep.
Because it's not, well, it's the TA's in the job description for the TA to bring a balanced budget to us.
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
And we
And
haven't
that's-
had that in the past.
And that's given us this, that's where the 60 days. That's Austin's projection, it might, speak up, Austin.
So 60 days was like a generalized timeline. He was not
Like an
saying like
example.
this is exactly what it's gonna be.
No, but he said it's projected timeline at the time. I
Right,
remember
right,
that,
right.
so I was like,
So
okay.
just to be clear, I'm incorporating the finance committee starting in November. So we'll be presenting a preliminary capital budget to you folks at the end of November. We're presenting the operating budget in December. The final budget and the proposed final budget to be presented to both you and the select board, ideally at a joint meeting, is mid-January, and asking this committee to start holding budget public hearings, which would include your conversations with departments, mid to late January, continuing until you feel that the budget looks good enough to be presented to a town meeting, which would be in May. So you're starting virtually the middle of next month and continuing through January, probably into February with your public hearings. So there's still very much a heavy involvement from the finance committee to review, ask questions, and consider your recommendations well in advance of town meeting.
I wrote a yellow sticky note on this packet that says, does or do the parts of this document referencing the finance committee jive with the bylaws? So what I've noticed is, we got the handbook of finance committees for the state. We got this document that I never even knew existed until a few weeks ago. And then we got bylaws. Which of those is actually the thing that really we need to be driven by? My guess would be it's the bylaws of the town, but I don't know. But I think we need to back up and finish arguing about this set of minutes, and then much of what we're discussing now is really what we need to discuss after we get these damn minutes either approved or not approved, right?
What's that document?
So just to be clear, that's going to be, that's the
Policy
input.
thing we're here to
Financial
discuss.
No, but that's the input to the town, to the bylaws, right? That's the input, unless I'm,
No, this is something
No,
different.
we did this a long time ago.
Yeah, this was done when Margaret was here. We put this in place when Margaret was here.
Why are we looking at this? Is this because the select board wants us to? Yeah.
It actually says in here that we're supposed to every year.
I saw that.
no, but all right, so
So just to be clear, the only policy-making body in the town is the select board. I think the select board asked finance committee for your review and thoughts and consideration, as they're really hoping to review not only the bylaws, but all of our town policies.
And I agree with Ted. I mean, I had that thought as I was going through this. It's almost like you have to have this financial policy, the FinCom handbook, and the bylaws, and what
And then
compare.
the state laws, and then the state
And
laws.
compare, make sure
Well,
they
they
all
sure as
jive.
heck shouldn't contradict each
Correct.
other, and I think they do to some extent. And it would be probably pretty nice if they complement
Well,
it or
this-
slow it along, but.
This document doesn't tell you about the budget or the finance committee's
No, this is-
reviewing the
this is
budget. This
something
is how the town's gonna spend money on certain specific
So
things.
it's the rules and regulations on how the town has to manage their
And
finances.
this was done
Actually,
with, like,
right here, the review of the budget performance does exactly what we're talking about. There's a whole paragraph on that.
right, but that's the overall, but we signed off on this as the finance committee with the sign. When this was done and we went to town meeting for a vote, we had to sign off with, along with them. And I think that was in that, I don't know what Margaret said was in either in that,
In
policy.
2017,
whatever.
It was in 2017, but it's supposed to be reviewed on an annual basis, and it's been 6 years.
Okay.
So that's why it's coming back, the select board's trying to get.
Oh, no, I
it.
understand what you're saying.
I think the whole thing, I agree with Ted, we should go over the meeting notes first. But I think this whole thing boils down to what your interpretation of the role of the finance committee is. And we have to agree as a group or disagree as a group or and say, yes, we like this, or no, we don't like this. Now, as a committee, a few months ago, when Peter came in and said, we wanna do this, this, and this, we spent like an hour, and everybody was here that was on the board at that time, and we went through everything, and we had it to where we thought it was well. We thought, we liked it. The selectmen, Tommy, reviewed it. They started doing a lot of reading in their spare time, and wanted to make sure that we understood what our roles and responsibilities are. I don't think it's changed. There was a couple words about who is responsible for presenting us a budget. And that was Austin first, then the selectmen second, and if it turned into a 9-alarm fire, we were gonna help out. That's how, I think I listened to the meeting on the thing a couple times, and that's how I remember it. If someone thinks differently, speak up.
That was the final
I think that's the
way it
gist.
went at the meeting, yes.
Yes.
Well, I know we're spending a lot of time on this, but I agree with what Karen's saying. You don't want somebody going back, cause this seems to be a very important discussion that's quite lengthy. You don't want somebody going back and reading something, that may not be,
But I dispute that it's incorrect,
Said-
that's the thing.
I mean, it said, well, I'm just reading this in our reading, I'm in discussion move to do it finally, because we had gray area in the past. I didn't know any, I only saw sunshine in the past, I didn't see any gray areas.
Gray one, never.
I don't know. It is, words make a difference, depends on how you say it.
But I'm also not comfortable
I'm not
changing the
saying-
meeting minutes with my name on it if
I'm not-
things
I'm not,
weren't really said or were really said, and that was specifically stated in the meeting that there's been a gray area in the past, which is why they wanted things to be explicit moving forward.
The select board said that, yes.
I believe I said that too.
Yes, you
I
did,
did,
Alex,
yeah.
cause that was why you said you wanted it to be explicit in the
Explicitly
bylaw.
stated in the bylaw who was
Who's
responsible.
responsible?
Yeah,
Where the pecking order comes down.
yeah. I definitely said it because I mean, at many points we talked about who was responsible for this, and some people thought it was one thing and some people thought it was another thing. So there was absolutely gray area in it, and there still is because it's still the bylaw right now. And people, just think of it differently. So I'm fine with that wording. So what do we actually need to change in these meeting minutes? I know there's some things that do need, like Jen came late, that's
Yep, I'll
fine, we
add
can
that
make
in.
that change.
I'll add that in.
Karen, you had a few others, did you get all of Karen's changes?
No, the only one that I heard was changing that the select board asked if there was value in changing the term.
Which is an accurate one as well, it was the select board that asked that, and we really didn't agree with that.
No,
in
but
any
it
way,
was the
shape.
select board that brought it up, it wasn't us that brought that up.
And that the select board was gonna have a continued conversation with the
moderator.
moderator.
And that was, and I think, yeah,
Wait, I'm confused on what is,
Regarding the,
the
Wait,
term.
our term, when it ended, there was gonna
When
be
it
a
starts to
continued
end.
conversation with the moderator.
And I do,
was it that I said that or I didn't say that?
You didn't say that.
Okay.
Yeah.
and I do agree that there's a double standard on how people get appointed in this town.
Yeah, it's you point, and
If they need someone really bad, you just walk in with a pulse and you get appointed.
Well, that was kind of my point when they were talking about doing interviews and resumes. I'm like, we barely can get people for committees here.
I've been there for the last 2 years with ratifications and no one shows up. Or very few show up. I can't say not everybody, but.
So it's, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't do our due diligence and do what we can to help make it better. So I'm fine with,
Well, it should be a procedure.
right. And
you
if they
follow
want to
the
put together a procedure, and as long as everyone's
Sure.
held accountable for that, and as long as everyone stands by the same thing, that's totally fine. So
right.
I have no issue with that. It's just, to Karen's point, it needs to be equal across the board and.
Right, absolutely.
I don't think, unless I've read our new or our present town administrator, that we are going down a road of he's just not gonna show us anything and talk about anything.
I don't think that either.
No, I'm just merely making a statement.
No.
Okay.
But we've had people in that office that have. And the whole purpose of making these rules is to make sure that we have that thing squared away, correct?
Right,
We must,
absolutely.
they said that at least a dozen times. And we have in the past ended up with the short end of the stick when that office went,
Well,
I'm not expecting that now, I'm just saying,
Yeah, and that was a lot of my point of saying this is why it needs to be dictated in the bylaw who's responsible for it, because if that happens, we then say, this is not our responsibility, it is yours, and we have a leg
so
to
it's the
stand
town
on.
administrator, then the select board, and then us.
I don't even think it's us after the select board, because technically, after the select board, who would it be? I don't think it could be us. I think in all aspects, we are going to work with whoever wants help. At least I will, and I'm sure multiple other people will. I don't doubt that for a second. But at the end of the day, if push comes to shove and they hand us a pile of poop, it's not our responsibility to turn that into gold. It is their responsibility to do that. Come to us with a balanced budget. And then we'll go through it, we'll make recommendations, we'll make, recommend changes or whatever we feel is necessary that best benefits the town. And then the final budget will be created and submitted, or not submitted, because that's our job to submit. But the final budget will be created and submitted by the town administrator to us, and then it'll be brought to town meeting. And we will either recommend it or not recommend it if we agree.
Can we get a really nice big bow?
You're gonna get more than a bow, you're gonna get a.
Because when we all walk
heavy-
in holding this on this
You're gonna
big
pull.
thing, on this really, no, we need a big ceremonial thing to carry in. I think
Ladder?
they made the comment, 4 of us were gonna lug in this big, wooden thing, so we want it really up done nice.
Treat it like the Constitution or something, for sure.
Constitution, yeah.
Okay, so are there any other changes to the minutes as they're stated, or are we ready for a motion there?
We don't have a second
We'll
yet.
need a first with the changes anyway, right?
So Pete will have to.
So
rescind your first.
I will withdraw my initial motion, and I'll make the motion that we will accept the minutes as amended.
Now do I have a second?
second.
You can't.
I don't think you can, you weren't there.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Ted's right.
It's Lynn and Karen. Can I second as chair?
Yep.
Alright, I second then. If we have a 50-50, what do we do?
We don't, we got 7.
But no, only 4 people were there.
You can start all over again and I can be there.
The whole committee can vote on this. You're just voting, you're voting to put this into the record, you're not voting.
Not to mention, there
The
is
people
video
that are here
evidence of
said
it
that
too.
those,
I don't
that's what they just changed.
So
long as the
aren't we,
changes
aren't
are
we
made.
approving the minutes, the
Minutes.
content of the minutes?
Yes.
And don't we have to, how would Ted know?
With amendments.
But you're saying, yeah, it's
Well,
okay
Ted
with
would
me
know,
to put this
'cause,
in the record, that's
two
what you're
people have
saying.
watched the replay of it on.
Well, I don't,
online.
I asked town council about that, and that's what she told me also, she
Now,
confirmed
Is
exactly
it
what
true
I
that the
said.
finance committee can do the same thing as some of the other boards where if they watch it, they can sign something?
Yes, you'd have to sign it, it's a Mullins rule, you'd have to sign it with the town clerk to
Yep.
state that you watched the recording.
Yep.
Okay?
So you guys can do that. I know myself, I would feel more comfortable approving these minutes once we see the amendments. That's me.
I agree with that. once we see how it's been amended.
Mr. Chairman, can I just ask a question?
Go for it.
What did you just say? No, if you're not at the meeting, you have to go sign a document that you
No, so there's
watched?
something called the Mullins Rule, and if you would like to be able to participate in future discussions on
future.
that specific topic, you would have to sign a certification with the town
Oh.
clerk stating that you watched the recording and you were up to date on what had taken place. And so that would also include if you wanted to vote on the minutes of that meeting.
That would include that?
But you can only miss up to one meeting on a specific topic before you are not allowed to participate.
Okay, I'm gonna have to look at
I'm
that,
fine with
'cause that's not what the
deferring
town
this
council lady
until
told me.
amendments are made, if that's fine with everyone. I think we need to,
So you guys can if you take a vote right now, excuse me,
yeah,
and it passes, it's done.
that's true. All in favor?
All right,
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Yeah. Use a nay, yeah.
Yeah.
2-2. So we're gonna have to do it later.
I'm fine with waiting until it, so do we have to withdraw or do we just?
Yeah, you have, just,
You got it?
yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna withdraw and we're going to, relook at this next meeting with the amended. Okay. Moving on, Town of Rutland financial policy. Okay, review and discussion of the current policy. Alright, so as noted, this is a very large policy of lots of stuff going on
Only
here.
19 pages.
It's actually, in fairness, actually not that big of a policy. Although it is longer than the one that I wrote. So this does state to whoever said it, I don't know, multiple people said it, that this is supposed to be reviewed by us on an annual basis. Not entirely sure that that's reasonable, but that's fine. So the best way to go through this, I'm not going line by line through this because I think that's insane. I told everyone to, read whatever you think you need to and come prepared with things that you want to talk about. So I think what I'm going to do is just open the floor to whoever wants to bring up things. We did sign this though, huh? The finance committee signed
Back in the
it.
day.
2016. Margaret wrote it.
Is it, would the auditors need to see this signed by the finance committee? I don't think so, right? Because to your point, it's just the select board who's responsible for creating the policy. They just like the what?
They just like to see that we have policies in place.
I'm surprised that we're actually supposed to sign this.
Okay, so nobody's talking, can I talk?
It's open.
Peter jumps in.
Board's open. Go for it.
So, does somebody have proposed changes to this, or somebody?
I think, no, there's no
And
proposed
you
changes.
just asked here, and nobody said anything about they wanted changes, so
What do you-
we reviewed it, we read it, we reviewed it, and everything's fine. Right?
No, I think people are gonna start bringing up things that they have questions about.
Okay.
I see Ted's got things written down on his, so.
Well, I thought you just asked that question and nothing was said, that's why I'm saying.
Oh.
Your son
Need to
going
move
home.
on.
That's what I thought he said. So, excuse me? That's exactly
So-
what I heard too, so thank you.
My first note, as I mentioned earlier, was, does this jive with the proposed bylaw changes? And I will definitely admit that I have not been able to have time yet to put the proposed bylaw changes side by side with this. But that probably should happen.
I agree with that.
well, so the question there would be, who should do that?
So,
Once we see the proposed bylaw,
Well,
then we could do it.
Right, but the
there's-
bylaw committee or whoever's working on the bylaw should do that too, shouldn't they?
And there's several different bylaws that I think will relate to
I
a lot
agree.
of the things, so.
I agree.
My bylaw, select board, finance committee.
Yep.
So to answer one of your questions, Ted, is the, total budget review. Town administrator will review the monthly variance reports and provide, at least a quarterly report to the board of selectmen and finance committee. That is language that's also included in the town administrator bylaw, just as one example, so.
So they jive though.
This one, that particular sentence does.
Awesome.
Have you ever seen a coordinated?
I have no doubt that there's things in this that are not gonna jive to the new bylaw, and to that point, we should make sure, and I don't know what the first document to be finished is, probably the bylaw gets finished first, and then I would think that this should then be married to the bylaw once it is finalized.
So one should inform the other. Bylaw should inform.
I would think
the-
bylaw should be ultimatum.
Right.
Well, MGL should be ultimatum, and then bylaw, and then
this guy.
this.
So,
This is just telling you how to keep up with that, really,
Yeah,
that's what
yeah,
it is,
yeah.
this is the
It's really,
instructions.
honestly, it's a financial handbook for the town.
Right,
this was put in place when Margaret was here.
yeah,
We signed, went over the whole thing, we've been doing the stuff in here, I assume, according to the people that are supposed to be doing it, I know the hours,
Oh, we mean, these,
since then, and that's what I guess that's what it is, what.
Yeah, we have been. There are plenty of things in this that I've read that and it's shame on me for not remembering the things that I read in here there are things that are supposed to be happening in here that are actually, here's one example.
maintaining the balances in the accounts, are we really doing that, is my question.
Yeah, and
Does
that,
anyone check
Now,
that?
where are we at?
Yeah, so,
well, here's the first thing, check number 7, have we ever done that?
Wait, now,
Number 7 on page 2.
On page 2.
Look what I wrote, are we, question mark? No.
There is some sort of a conservation or open space fund, right, but it has not virtually.
Yeah, it's got like $200 or
Virtually nothing
$400 in
in it, yeah.
it, there's nothing in
The
it.
answer to that is
Goal
no.
is to
We had just enough to open the account.
so definitely not 2%, it's got $2.
So that's the whole thing. It was kind of funny, cause I'm like, I don't remember this, and then when I read it through, I went, oh crap, we've never done this.
Yeah,
Which honestly, that's kind
We
of
put money in to buy, when we have bought land, we've done that.
no, this is saying every single year.
Every
you're
single
gonna-
year, so
year.
just like
It's like a savings account.
OPEB, just
No,
like.
I understand what it says, but it says it shall be the goal to maintain a balance. It doesn't say, but we haven't had money to do it the last umpteen
Yeah,
years.
I think there's plenty of reason why we haven't. I
Well,
think it's
we've
just.
met that paragraph.
Yeah, but it also says capital stabilization shall be the objective of the town to maintain a balance of, and we've always made sure that we've done that plus some.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been ahead on that.
Right, so that's the thing, I'm just saying we should probably be looking at that, if we're doing
one,
this, we should do it for all.
So the only feedback I would have on all of these is just clarifying what annual budget is. And I only ask because there's some communities that the definition is very different, especially communities that have a regional school district. So what is your definition of annual budget? Is it the municipal budget that is roughly 11 million? Or is it the total spend budget, which is roughly 27 million, including the educational expenses? And the reason why I ask that is because schools also have their excess and deficiency funds. So they have their own little stabilization funds for their operations. So to give you reference, our free cash, it's at least 5% of annual budget. If it was without educational expenses, it's 563,000. If it's with education, it's 1.3 million. Currently, we have $43,000 in our free, undesignated
close.
free cash. Capital stabilization is either 0.5% or long-term 1.5%. So without education, it would be 56,000. 1.5% would be 169,000. With education would be 136. We have 358,000. Stabilization, ours is that same 5% numbers. We currently have 1.172 million. So we're below a little bit on some of those goals and some of those targets. So I think it would be good for me, especially. We're trying to maintain some of these balances to know exactly what our number we're shooting for should be. So a definition, whether it says annual budget including educational expenses, because it does say exclusive of enterprises, but I think it should also say including or not including educational expenses. Because that's a big difference.
That's fair. Does anyone have
It says budget, and the budget is the whole amount, so.
Right, but we're a little different because
No, I
we have that
understand what you're
regional
saying.
school
I
district,
understand.
especially looking at like Bay Path. They're almost, I mean, I think last year, they were over the 5% E&D cap, so they had to return some of that. Wachusett's not really close yet, but.
Let's not go there.
Yeah. So they do have their reserves, and some school districts do very well maintaining those. So the question is, should the town be also maintaining additional reserves for educational expenses?
The only problem comes in where we don't get to tell the schools what to use for E and D. the school committee gets to tell them. And we've had issues such as last year, the year before, where they don't want to use their E&D, they want to keep that. And the E&D has helped assist pay for things such as a new football field when that got failed. So they like to keep it because it's nice to have for when they can't get something through the 5 towns. That isn't the case with Bay Path. Bay Path, without a doubt, I mean, when we had the pandemic, they said they put this aside, we got money back. We were told the same thing from Wachusett, and big surprise, we didn't see anything.
Yeah.
Now granted, that's a different administration, and I understand that, but all I'm saying is in some respects, since we can't tell them, we almost have to like make sure that all of our reserves are as best we can based upon in my opinion, the entire budget, because they come after us for a lot, and they don't use their E&Ds the way they should. I mean, we all asked them to use more, and they still didn't.
Year and a half
But
ago.
isn't
Well, they
the,
did, this year they used.
A very little bit more. I mean, it's like a
Isn't the,
coupon versus,
Well,
you know.
50,000 for us.
It was, and listen, I'm thankful for that, but we asked for, the 5 towns asked for more.
isn't that in the agreement, the regional agreement?
Right.
And my understanding, it was also the state law that says once their budget is their stuff, once we pay them the money, that's it. We pay our amount and they do what they need to do with it or want to do with it.
They put that in our face a couple times, Tom, remember?
And we have the school committee members, but of course they're outnumbered right off the bat. But the only thing we can do is
No, I get it, that's what,
entice the school committee members to.
right. That's why I'm saying it's almost better that we
Would
just
advise or whatever the
put all
right word
these
is.
stabilization numbers up based upon the entire budget.
But-
That way there's more.
Are we ever going to be able to afford to do that? I know it's a goal. I know the whole idea here is to be able to put together a document, some indication of what we would like to be able to do. But how realistic is it if we're going against on the full budget?
A lot, well, I thought
We've
we've done
pretty,
quite a few.
we've done pretty good on some of them.
Stabilization, you're pretty close. I
Yep.
mean, you're only 200,000 below the 5% goal. Free cash, not so much.
Right,
Capital stabilization, you're slightly below as well.
yeah. But I mean, we've made leaps and bounds with both of those when
Right.
we were way below on stabilization for a long time and it was hurting us, and then we brought it up. And then we've all made sure that the capital stabilization fund was there so that, because we couldn't do it as a normal budget thing, we wanted to make sure we had money in there to replace things.
Well, it's only gonna help us when we go to get debt too.
Exactly, and that's exactly right. So that was the whole thing. I know that's why Margaret, and now I do remember, because she wanted the conservation fund because
Davis Farm.
Davis Farm.
I'm sure it was Davis
It
Farm
was
at
Davis
that point,
Farm,
right?
because she wanted to put in the CPA, and we couldn't, we knew we wouldn't get that through, so she put this in, because we thought by putting that in, we'd have money to buy land. Now, I do remember that conversation.
We'd at least be allowed to play in the sandbox.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think too, there's some things in here that I think we have fought, for instance, ongoing operating costs will be funded by ongoing operating revenue sources. Basically what that's saying is you don't use one-time revenues for ongoing operating costs. We've fought against that many times, and I think that's one thing that, had we all known this was here, and I'm sure, some of us did, but maybe not that specific line, we could have said, we can't even do it anyway, so it doesn't matter. Now, you can always get around that, but.
well, I think all of us knew that that wasn't the way to do things, but we also didn't want the
Things happen.
devastation that would have happened had we not.
Yeah.
Push comes to shove.
But I think it's important to kind of say, there's
Comes to shove, you
policies
take out that
around
credit
these
card, buy
things.
something.
Even though we maybe shouldn't.
The checkbook might not have enough money, but
But the credit card though.
yeah,
Jesus
so,
Christmas.
I mean,
I think one of the other things that I like to see in here, I'm happy to see in here, a few lines down from that, it's under general guidelines. that's under 3, it's the last line there, which probably should just be 4.
What page are you on?
Page 2. Top of page 2 after C, the town administrator will prepare multi-year revenue and expenditure projections. That's something we've talked about plenty of times. I had done a rough one last year, but I think seeing more official and more, and I know Austin has talked to me many times about having that and doing that. So I think going forward, that'll be great, but that's something that should have been happening anyway, according to these policies that have been in place since 2016. So shame on previous town administrators for not having those for us.
I think Margaret did it her second.
Yeah, it depends on
Second
what
or
the-
third year, I think.
I
but
mean, they've
can't-
also had their help come and go too, so sometimes they're not have as many hands to help, and other times they do, but I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying, but.
So I don't even work in that position, and I did it in a matter of like 2 hours
No, I know, but maybe
on a Saturday.
some of them weren't able to do it, so you have to volunteer over there and help them. I'm not disagreeing with you, I'm just saying, sometimes it's
Here you go,
not as easy
Alex.
to do as
Another
said.
job.
You don't have anything else to do.
I don't. You're right.
So,
Sometimes with the screaming kid, I'd like to get out of that. Yeah. Be arguing with that one.
You like fishing?
You don't want me fishing with you. You won't catch anything. I promise. I'm cursed.
One of the things that I wrote a note about is back to general financial guideline number 1 on the first page. Financial discussions shall be open and inclusive, and we got brought to task publicly once or twice last budget session, and I know people mentioned it to me. You guys should do more promoting of what's going on, and when I look at some of these things, I mean, I know it's tough to try and get people interested, and I think the sessions that we had in that room last year did a great job of that. I asked Karen to bring this report that she found that another town had done, and I know you, the three of us, have talked a little bit about the fact that it would be nice if we could get something working towards a document like that put some of this information out, because I mean, we're invested in looking at this every year for a good portion of the year, but Joe Average Citizen expects they can show up at town meeting and vote on it, and they don't have a lot of the information that would be really nice. They don't understand that we're trying to put 5% towards this and 2% towards that, and they don't understand that, you know, we shouldn't be spending one-time money. They're like, oh, you got all that ARPA money, spend it, let's do it up. So I would love to see, you know, us collectively work with Austin, somebody to make more of a report like that, and I've volunteered a little bit of my time. I'm assuming we may discuss that more as the process comes along, but I think that would help, you know, kind of do a lot of what number one is saying, but, you know, it may address some of the other issues that.
So one of the things that in these, when you made reference to these meetings over here, one of the things that Austin had said in the meetings was that he wants to be able to do a town administrator's dog and pony, and it's just a get together with the people in town, make it available to people, so that they can come in and ask questions on an ongoing basis, figure out what it is that is going on in town, make some, ask some questions about it. And I don't know if you've been able to make any. It's not like you haven't had anything to do, but I don't know if you've been able to make any progress with trying to do that, and I think that would address those kinds of concerns.
Yes, so you're right, the past few months have been interesting. What I have started doing is a monthly coffee chat at the senior center, for example. Tamika and I do a lot on social media as well, trying to coordinate a kind of a dedicated source for the town of Rutland to get information out there. Obviously, nothing related to the budget yet, because
Right.
we're just starting. more so on some other projects and initiatives. And then also, if you watch the select board meetings, I do have a new way of presenting the town administrator's report, which is that dog and pony show kind of style.
Right.
That is a PowerPoint, so.
Not quite, because you don't stand up there with a pointer. You sit down, so
With the
there's no
laser
pointer.
pointer.
Yeah.
You know, but we can see if we can get you one.
So, yeah, I mean, so I think some of the communication improvements will take some time as well. I mean, I'd love to have the ability at some point to create a newsletter. It's just in terms of the 24 hours in the day.
Those pictures of you in your big rubber boots at the water main breaks would be great.
Yeah, and sewer on my new shoes and everything else, yeah.
No, I meant your boots, not your good
Oh,
shoes. I don't want you to ruin your
Yeah, well, these
shoes.
are new shoes, because the other shoes had sewer.
So going back to Ted's point, I think he's right, I would agree 100%. We need to continue those sessions that we did last year before the town meeting, to go over the budget. I think they were well received, and people that did come learned an awful lot of stuff at them. I think that, I don't know if it's possible, but we probably could maybe do one partway through the season, or, I don't know, if that's what you're working on, to keep people informed, but something to that effect.
I think as opposed to doing it last minute weekly, we could do some sort of monthly thing once we start, or,
And then once you get in a routine, keep it the same, so people have it in their head, and then they know this is when it's gonna happen.
yeah.
I think once you're done with your budget hearings and you say, all right, this budget looks good, we're ready to go to town meeting, I think that would be a good opportunity for the committee to say, all right, now we're ready to roll this out.
Right. And theoretically, that's gonna be the end of January-ish timeframe,
Yeah,
so I mean,
I
that
was
should be
gonna say, if
4
it's
months
early
to
enough.
go,
Yeah.
so I mean, you
You've
could
got
do,
plenty of time.
Yeah, but you're
Start.
still I think you're still gonna need one of those kinds of communication sessions as you get closer to the town meeting.
Well, so I'd like a really good practice that I've seen some other communities do, I know Leicester does it, is they almost have a pre-town meeting where it is more so an informational session where you roll through some of the, especially the more controversial, or you think the articles that will get a lot of attention, and no question, I think the budget should be one of those, where you do have staff, town administrator, select board, finance committee there to answer some questions that people may have. And what they do well is like what was done here with the budget sessions, is they record it and then they put it out on social media and the website to, for those who couldn't attend. So that's something I think we should be doing with every annual town meeting too.
Which is what the last thing we were gonna say was, and I've said it before in a number of our meetings, is, and if you looked, I think last week there was one for, I can't remember the town, but they have a special town meeting club. They actually publish a legal notice that they're gonna have a town meeting to review the proposed budget, or review the proposed, whatever the item is coming up.
Warrant articles,
But
yeah.
many of them are in the, well, I shouldn't say in the spring, because some of them are in January and February for May. So, but anyways, they're a good period of time before the town meeting. It's an actual posted, presented, whatever the right word is, town meeting that the finance committee is going, or whoever's gonna go over the budget, to have an official meeting. Just like that's what I'm just saying, what you said, but if you watch the paper, there's a number of those that come up.
So it keeps people informed.
Correct, absolutely.
Sunday afternoons worked really, really well, I thought.
Yeah, I
Versus
did
the
too.
evening, I thought Sunday afternoons worked really well.
Yeah.
I do too, I think,
I think we got people to come out, because
And
then they're not driving in the dark and all that
Right,
stuff,
right.
so.
if we do it monthly in the beginning, like from February monthly, and then we do it, the couple weeks before, we could do a weekly sort of thing, but I think that if we give plenty of opportunity and have plenty of room to run with that, we can rotate different people, so not everyone's spending their Sundays in town seeing different faces and not seeing my ugly mug every week. That would go a long way.
I don't think there's gonna be a lot of interest unless it's controversial.
Well, I think you're right. I think the whole reason that we had so much interest was 2.5.
But I think getting people involved and getting people the opportunity is, one, important, but also giving people the opportunity to see what's going on, ask questions what's going on, to set the stage for an eventual override that is probably gonna happen in 5 years, or whatever the number is, right? So if you're not getting in front of people saying, and then, when we do have to do that, we can say, we've been talking about this now, and this day, we talked about this, we mentioned this, and so like, I think there's, build-up that has to happen there, and understanding that is more than just these meetings, because there's a lot of detail in these meetings that people don't care about. But a Sunday to get out of the house to listen to us talk and they don't have to be as long, they could be a half-hour meeting. I think
45 minutes.
I don't think you're wrong, I think there'll be less interest, and there might be less people there, but.
I think the idea is great, and I'll participate in any way I can, but don't get upset when there's nobody there.
But I
Because
think,
there'll be a lot of times that there's nobody there.
Well, but you will have a record and say, we
Yeah,
did that.
we did
need-
it.
I would
I'm
say
not-
if we have a print version of that, we can say, this was available. And if
And
we
this
have,
book is a
we have
great
something,
idea if someone wants it.
components of this online, then we've got three-pronged, in-person, print, electronic version of it. People can at least, it can be pointed to and said, this was all here for you
Because I
to
think
look
that
at.
we can
And you're
also-
right, they may not.
But we can also prepare this, because the paradigm is, we may have bought ourselves several years. We can all disagree or agree on how many years that is, but this is coming back around.
But it's really no
It's coming back. We're gonna do a big override, and you as a water user are gonna take a big hit here soon.
There you go.
Again, wow, have you seen all the work they've done in front of your son's house down there?
But it's
It's like
really
a
no.
river
it's-
runs through it.
It's really no
already voted.
different, because when we go through and do all this kind of stuff, it's kind of good to get more people out there. Bay Path came to us 5 years before they needed the new equipment. They warned us, they told us every year, we're gonna need more than the state minimum. And so when they came in and asked for it, you remember we told you, and that, they told us it was fantastic.
Wachusett School Committee fired, the superintendent fired a warning shot that we're gonna need a new school within the next few years.
Right,
Let's see what he says this year,
Right.
but keep it, we know that that's coming.
exactly. It's all those kinds of things.
and I think maybe initially we may not get a lot of people or anybody, but if you're consistent, people may go, oh, maybe I should go.
And with this point number 7, this conservation fund. And I do agree that we need a conservation fund. I don't know that the piece of property over there on Welsh Ave was ideal for that, and we can debate that. I mean, it was kind of isolated, but
No, we're not here to debate that.
there may,
It's too late now.
Sorry.
it's gone.
Yep,
But there's a lot of, there's some other pieces of property that are coming up within the next year or two. We should,
And people may,
Think
like,
about
people may not know, they know they want land, but they need to know we have to be able to afford the land.
Right.
right.
What do we have to do in order to get there? And
Right.
I've had people ask me that question, like, what do we have to do in order to buy public land? So, people are asking, it's not like it's a,
It always
Crazy
works better
topic.
when the people that are selling it have a conscience and they sell it to people that care. Like, there's been people in town for the school down there, that was purchased directly from a person that wanted us to have it, not held us hostage for an exorbitant fee. How's that?
But they also have to know then once we buy that piece of land, then there's no tax, whatever the tax amount is, but then there's no taxes coming from the
Correct.
land either.
right.
yeah, but we have other pieces of property within town. Not that we're gonna debate that, but there's plenty of pieces of property in town that there's stuff on it that due to certain, in lieu of taxes, don't have taxes on it.
The
That the
meeting,
town owns?
And town doesn't own it, but we have other pieces of
We
property.
do, but, okay, that happens everywhere.
Right, but,
I'm saying if the town buys a piece of land, whatever the taxes were, we don't get them. That's what I'm saying. Simple and straightforward, nothing else to do with that.
so,
And how much land do you need? We already own a lot of land. The town owns a lot of land. And I don't know if anybody even knows how much land we own, but I know it's a lot.
So you're disagreeing on the 2%, or are you okay with it?
No, I'm not saying we shouldn't have a conservation fund, but I'm not gonna get all excited over it, there's no money. I mean, it says the goal is to have some money in there, but if we can't do it, we can't do it. If we can, then we'll do it.
I think it's a good thing to keep on there for sure. I think that there's no, I mean, maybe that 2% should be the equivalent of the stabilization at 1.5, but I mean.
And we probably need to start making that part of a warrant article for the special town meeting. Like we do OPEB, like we do all of those things.
You don't put any, you don't,
Because then at least if it's a warrant article, it's a good use of free cash.
Not a bad idea, yeah, for sure.
Cause
And
if
if
you
it fails,
don't,
it fails.
maybe,
So do
yeah.
we have any specific changes or specific written stuff that we're gonna,
So far, I don't think anyone's.
I
said
wanted to
any
look at number
specific-
9.
Okay.
Okay.
on
and-
page?
3. So it says the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee shall review financial policies annually, seeking input from financial staff and advisors. To me, that screams like subcommittee. There could be a couple people from here, someone or two from selectmen, and some other people, because, what we said, this was 2016, this document, and it probably hasn't been reviewed since. Certainly, we're gonna probably, if the bylaws are being changed, we're gonna need to put this side by side with the bylaws and look at it, but my suggestion would be is maybe get a subgroup of people to take a look at it at some point.
Well, but this document says that it should occur, it doesn't say who or how.
No,
Should it
but it
say
ain't
who or
occurring,
how?
so
So he's suggesting a change.
Definitely ain't.
since we didn't know about it.
I'm gonna say the same thing I said a few minutes ago, but how many years it's been now? There's no written changes in front of us saying this should change to that. Is, you like it or don't like it?
Well, I'm just wondering if Ted is making a proposal to change that particular item.
I mean, it does sound like he is. I think that, so, just real quick to answer Tommy's question, just because it's been working, things are changing every year, things change. So I don't think there's a problem with looking at it annually and saying, we don't have to spend, 5 days looking at this every year. But I think there is warrant to look at it often, whether it's annually. I don't think that it's necessary to look at annually. I think that it's easily something that can be done biannually, but then you probably lose track of which annually you did it.
Tommy, were you on the finance committee and this was approved the first time?
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
He did say he was, yeah.
he signed it.
He did.
Okay.
I don't disagree with this number 9, but I think it covers what needs to be done. I don't think we need to create more work for,
I'm
if
good
somebody
with
has a reason or something that in here's not
I
working.
What
honestly,
I'm bringing up is we're not doing the work that it says we should be doing. That's not happening.
So
forgot
maybe
about the
it's as
conservation,
simple
so I thought
as-
that was nice to see.
Yeah, okay, reviewing it, but I mean, we relied on Austin brought the numbers to us, what's in the stabilization fund and the budget. So even if that's put on a piece of paper in front of us, you balance and the stabilization
I
is
don't know what
this,
we're not
this is your
doing.
budget, here's
I
the
like
difference.
Karen's recommendation that, to be perfectly honest with you, that it's a warrant on the annual town meeting for
I agree with that,
Conservation,
yeah,
for the conservation,
I agree.
and other than that,
Can you
this,
do that? Or do we have to write it up?
Yeah, certainly.
Certainly we can write it up, or certainly you do.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I know how this works.
No, I think that we can do that.
Thank you.
And that's the goal. I heard someone mention special town meeting. I'm hoping instead of making special town meeting, the fall town meeting, spending town meeting, we would defer spending free cash in the fall and opt to use that once we have a capital plan and we know what the budget looks like and do that at the annual. So it's not gonna go anywhere. It's just gonna stay in the fund anyways. So.
Okay, let's talk about that at the meeting in which we talk about warrant articles.
I just wanted, so someone said something about how much the town of Rutland owns. I just actually got this from the assessor. The town of Rutland owns 676 acres in the town.
And most of that is RDIC, correct?
No.
Okay.
it's only 100 and something up there, right?
88?
It was 88 less 35 or 36.
Yeah.
And that's obviously not including everything that's owned by state agencies like DCR and everything
So is there a list someplace we could get that shows
Yes,
us?
that's where I got that.
Cause I know Tommy's asked for that before.
Oh, no, but the assessors have that card they put out every year too, tells you.
Yeah, if you go
What's
on our
on it?
GIS and just type in town of Rutland,
Right.
everything will pop up that we are.
That is a lot of land.
There's a lot of land around
Well,
the
I mean,
schools
how much of it
around,
is
too.
really usable is probably a good
Well,
question.
there's no doubt about that too.
What, a little bit of water?
Usable
You know what I
for
mean.
building or usable for conservation purposes,
You know what I mean.
Right,
you know?
right. I get it.
Yeah.
That's right. Absolutely.
If
you're
there's
right.
nothing there but grass, trees, and birds, and it doesn't use any infrastructure, it's saving us money.
But so in fairness, this has
It
conservation
certainly
funds
is.
to be used in part for the purchase of land
Yes.
or conservation restrictions or agricultural so it does say purchase of land as in to use it to build on or whatever. So like this is actually covering all of those.
The spirit of that, I believe, is so that we actually can say we are doing that. So if we ever do want to apply
Yeah,
for a
absolutely.
grant,
Yep.
we can apply for the grant because there were times when we wanted to apply and we were told, sorry, you guys don't do that,
Right. Yeah.
so you can't apply.
Right.
And I remember that now. Margaret brought that up.
Just
'cause-
like the storm drain thing that we didn't do and they get caught for.
Oh, yeah.
Keep bringing it up in open meetings.
But we're doing it now, so.
Now, I had a couple of other things.
Okay,
doing the
which one?
Page 8,
Yeah,
Age
But we
8.
don't do it every year.
page 8, the paragraph at the top. And I've read this one kind of over and over again, and I mean, this is the thing that I think
Yeah, okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Back to
is
everything
what
else.
needs to make sure that that jives with the town
Yeah.
bylaw and
So in fairness, this is very general. And that's not a bad thing that this is general. This is you could take it.
you could
However,
stick
the-
advisory in there and it would fit.
Yeah, I don't even think you'd have to change this. If you change the bylaw to say advisory, it would still jive with this. It is very, very vague. And that's not a bad thing because it's just talking about the general sense of how the budget's created. But it is actually saying that the budget is created by the town administrator.
Yeah.
In coordination with, what does it say?
Department heads.
conjunction with.
Yeah.
Yeah. department
Coordinating
heads.
budget review and development with the finance committee. For its recommendation on a balanced budget, which does say that we're gonna get a balanced budget and review a balanced budget, of course, so that is in here as well.
I like the coordinating and development, I think that's,
Yeah. So I do think that this, however the bylaw turns out and however that goes, whatever direction that ends up taking, this does jive with it. Cause it's honestly so general.
I hope that we can see it before the February town meeting.
I would think we could.
What are public budget hearings? It says as well as public budget hearings.
All of our meetings that we have with the department
Yeah, they're all
and
public.
discussions.
Honestly, even like
Even the
every.
Sunday nights.
Even the meetings that, well, no, cause those aren't, oh, yeah.
Yeah, they were public.
But even if the department heads aren't here and we're just talking about the budget, that's a
That's
public
a public
hearing.
hearing.
Yeah.
Okay,
because our meetings.
I was
are
about to say this meeting, but it's not about budget, so it's cool.
so we're doing that.
So it is.
We are doing
We're
that.
doing that.
We are the finance committee is definitely, from everything I've read in here, we are doing what we are supposed to be doing.
Absolutely.
No, this is not a shot on Austin, but the town administrator is not doing everything the town administrator is. not
Previous.
because
Previous.
So would they like us to have a
There's a lot of
vote
things
to
in
say
here.
that this is good? Is that what they're asking?
I just think.
They were
I
looking
just
for
think we needed
recommendations
to-
on any changes, and if we're good with everything, we can just say we're good with everything. I think one thing we wanna, touch back on is, Ted's, number 9 there on page 3. Do we want to, does anyone have, or Ted, do you have a recommendation on what you'd like that to be that we can go forward to the, select board with, or does anyone have, something that they would like to change it to?
I think it should stay just like it is. That's my 2 cents.
Well, I mean, my first reaction is, we're not doing it. It says we're gonna do it, we don't do it. It ain't my fault. I don't think it's our fault. Is there a reason we're not doing it? Because we've been
I'm guessing it's because none of us
completely
do.
overwhelmed with all
I-
other kinds? I didn't even know it existed, so, I think it's bad that there's something in there that we don't do, so we either ought to come up with a mechanism to do it, or get rid of
Okay,
it.
so we're doing it now, and we'll do it every year. Bring it up every year and we'll do it.
Okay.
Simple as that. And then we're doing what we're supposed to do. I don't think it's an
Well,
issue
but
at
I think
all. We're
I-
making an issue out of something that's not there.
Well, I think what Ted is pointing to is that it's saying that someone should do this.
Well,
And I
no,
think
it's
it might be
it's
more.
saying board of selectmen.
Oh, it says finance committee. It
says
specifically
finance
says
committee.
finance
Well,
committee.
I know that, but to the point that you were talking about before, that it's a subcommittee of.
Well, no, he's saying, could there be a subcommittee that could do that?
Well, but
Is there any,
otherwise you're saying the
Valid
full
use of it.
board and committee would end up doing this once a year.
Right.
And I think that if we're going to make recommendations, we probably wanna be able to say a subset of both finance committee and board of selectmen would in fact get together on an annual basis, and they would produce a report of whatever their discussions were and changes.
I think
I'm
that
just-
could be decided if we want to make changes. I think we could decide that at the time of that review. We could say, how about we get a subcommittee together to, so I think that, to Tommy's point, it is an adequate review statement. I think to his point, we just need to do it. And I think now that we all know it should be done, we can do it.
Let me just write after this, as told to us, or reminded to us by the town administrator.
Well, I mean, could it be as simple as sticking this on the calendar for every
Yeah.
November
Absolutely.
on our agenda?
Could we, so,
Review
could
financial
we just have
policies.
we're killing this thing.
Yep.
And I'm usually the one that's killing it, but I'm thinking that we could take a vote of consensus that we have no problems with this, or however you guys wanna word it.
I make a motion that we report back that we reviewed the policy and we don't have any recommendations or changes at this time.
Second.
Any discussion on that? Is it-
yeah, I think there's a couple of other things I wanted to note. On page 8, under total budget review, it says the town administrator will review the monthly variance report, blah, 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 and we will
Yep,
get
we're also
quarterly
not doing
reports. Do we get in that?
Nope. We do, so we get the monthly, that's not coming from the town administrator, right? But it is coming from somebody under him, so like, that is fine that we're getting those reports. I do think that we could easily get a presentation quarterly on what's going on with the town budget compared to actuals. That's something that's been, lightly talked about, so I think that that's something that will be happening eventually. To Austin's point, it's been a crazy couple months for him, so I think we give the benefit and say that that will be happening, going forward. So quarterly will be happening. I don't think monthly presentations are reasonable or doable, so I don't want that. So quarterly, I think, is great. And I think that could be in the form of a meeting, or it could be in the form of a write-up summary, a Word doc, or a PowerPoint, however we wanna do that.
This is why we're this much over, this is why we're that much on.
Yep,
Oh, okay.
just some highlights of.
But what I was just gonna say was those documents that you do, or the town accountant sends out, it tells you there how much was spent and what percent of the, so I mean,
Yeah.
you do have that.
Yep,
Yeah,
and
me
that's,
too.
Okay.
that's what we're saying, but this is
But I-
saying, presentation to occur at least quarterly. I think that,
So if you just wrote up a little
What if there's
blurb,
an explanation of something that's.
You do it
unusual, yes,
anyway.
Okay, yeah.
do it anyway.
I do high level what each, the general fund and the enterprise fund, so, I mean, our first quarter just ended, so.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, I already have that plan to present to the board.
again, it could just be a write-up, a summary that we're getting quarterly.
Oh, no, we're
to
doing
say-
the dog and pony show.
Here you go.
you want us to buy a new
So I'm
pair of
looking
tap
for.
shoes?
I was gonna bring that up too.
If you're on a ponies, I know there's goats and stuff.
Do you have others?
The only one other place where I saw finance committee specifically mentioned was page 12, down near the bottom, prior to distribution of preliminary blah, blah, blah. I don't even understand what that whole paragraph says, so maybe it's not important, I don't know.
I'm sorry, page 12. prior
Page
to
12,
distribution
right
of official-
down
yeah, I
there.
got you.
Procedures to be followed by the treasurer
Okay.
prior to the distribution.
It's for borrowing.
And we haven't done really borrowing in a few years, at least since I've been on this committee, we have not been borrowing, so.
Well, we borrow every year.
Yeah, they borrow all the time,
We borrow every year.
according to state law.
Sorry. We have not done new
Not like we bought a school.
negotiations or, yeah.
Last one was a couple
Yeah.
years ago, right?
So
Yeah, as read.
we're not out of,
Wait, now, where does it
Whack.
say the finance committee is supposed to do something here on page 12?
Just the use of the bond proceeds.
Board of Selectmen Finance Committee, it's the second paragraph.
Review the information provided to bond
Second line.
counsel to review the intended use of the bond proceeds and the property funded and to determine whether there are any
I
consequent
see.
uses.
Yeah.
So it's been a couple of years.
Yeah, and especially, if we're borrowing to buy, like if the select board opted to exercise their right, first refusal and decided to borrow that, the official statement, we'd have to go through a whole process to make sure that, if it was a property that, was going to be tax exempt and there wasn't any business activity, like we weren't going to have a recreational sports complex up there, that would be a business use. That wouldn't be tax exempt, so there's a whole complicated process through Mass General Law that we have to make sure that if we're going to use bond proceeds, they have to be within Mass General Law. So it's just kind of a formal procedure.
Okay, I still don't see, that's what I read.
Finance committee to review.
So it seems like that's something that would only occur when there's a specific thing that's happening.
Correct.
It really hasn't, so it's just there. All right, I got one other thing.
Okay.
And this actually goes back a little bit to what you brought up, page 8, the reserve fund, the 1% reserve fund. Is that based off of the municipal land of school or some other?
It clearly says,
It says,
general fund appropriations less the assessments to the district schools.
Okay.
That one actually clearly states it, so.
So, in what, one of my notes says, how does this differ from numbers 4 and 5, which are the two we were discussing back on page 2?
Right.
I would think that they are the different. I would think that the way it's written is saying that the first two should be the total budget and the one you're just bringing up should be the less.
And the whole reason why was when Margaret wrote these, we didn't have a lot to tuck away in reserves. And she wanted us to put money aside, start saving, because we were spending like drunken sailors.
Save for a rainy day.
So
It seems like at least every year I've been involved, we've
We
gotten
have,
hit for that a little bit.
we've made sure that we've been putting stuff away,
Right, but we've also been,
Yeah,
had requests to use that for
we have.
some sort of emergency-ish type stuff.
Still a long way to go. I mean, I think, so, 1% would be like over $100,000 and your budget for this year is 35.
Right. And, yeah.
it's a.
We get it,
something.
but but at least we're trying.
It's a start.
well, we based on what we thought we would need, and that's how we've been doing it, because we haven't had
It's
the money
also
to do
based
it.
on what we can do.
Right, exactly.
And
We've
that's-
cut it back sometimes trying to do something different.
Those sorts of things are some of the first
Absolutely.
things that go when you're trying to balance a budget,
Sure.
for sure. The one thing I do want to say in general about these policies and these procedures. So, we went over a bunch of stuff tonight. We're not making any changes other than, no, we're not making any changes. But what I will say is that whenever, and not just about what we do as a finance committee and how these impact the finance committee, but the idea here is to think about all year, think about how the town does things financially, because it's a financial policy, how they do things, what's happening, if you see something that you're questioning, don't like, think should be different, when the policy comes up for review, or anytime, frankly, make a recommendation that we would change these policies, and we could change them if needed, or we could wait until the review is done. But this is not something that just needs to be thought about when we do this annual review. This is something that anytime you see something, because you're not gonna think of it when you're doing the review, you're gonna think of it randomly while we're having a discussion, or when you're sleeping. So think about these things, this should be something that you'd bring up, send an email to anyone, right, and say, hey, let's discuss this the next time we do the policy review. And those are when the good stuff is changed and you come up with good ideas.
Because we have reasons. to.
Right, exactly. So again, just think about that in general while we're going through the year and going through the budget process. Again, not just finance committee related, anything financial matters. That's what this is about. It's not just about us in this. So there was already a motion and a second on recommending that they are good as is. Any other discussion about that? Hearing none. Can I get a, all in favor? Sorry.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you, everyone, for looking at that. I know it's a lot of writing. I don't read well, so it's a pain. So we need to set a meeting date for recommendations on warrant articles for special town meeting. Special town meeting is a day,
The 16th.
November 16th. When do we want to, when should we, I guess, Tamika, when does it make sense to, how much in advance should we be meeting? And then let's talk about a day.
There's a couple of options. If the finance committee would like to meet jointly with the select board on October 26th and make your recommendations that same evening, that would probably be the best option because then we can include your recommendations on the warrant before it's posted. The other option would be to wait until the following Thursday, November 2nd. However, your recommendations would not be included on the warrant, but you would still be within, your time frame to make recommendations.
I think we should do it as a joint meeting.
Is everyone okay with it, October 26th?
Yep.
So that would be a joint meeting with the
Joint meeting,
selectmen.
select board.
And we're gonna vote on,
2nd's the
when
day.
they vote on the article, then we're gonna decide then. Unless
what
we
the hell
have
it is.
further questions or
Oh,
whatever.
That'd be
That's
something to do with
I
Halloween,
think that was
right?
No,
your
it's a
recommended,
Mexican
Tommy. I know
holiday,
back in
a
the spring, you
South
guys had
American
holiday,
holiday.
but then they
Yeah.
held a separate meeting for
I know.
recommendations, so if you do
There
it
was a
all in
reason we
one
did that.
night-
I don't remember what it was.
I
There
don't
was a
either, but
reason
I think we
did
should
that.
do it
We
while
did
we're
that
right
last
there and
year
have it over
because we
with.
didn't have all the information that we needed. There
I
were
think
some
that's right,
questions,
yeah.
so
Was that
we,
last year or the year before?
That was last
I
year.
forget if it was last year or the year
It was
before
last year.
both.
No, it was last year.
Yeah, it was.
But yeah, so there were some
No, I
questions
think
that we didn't get the
I
answers,
have
so.
one other thing.
Yeah.
I would like to see, number one, how much money, we got from the sale of Rutland Heights Hospital. And I would like to see how written down, not speculation, the law or whatever is stated on how we can spend that money. I've heard more speculation, gossip, should be, could be, would be, if the town administrator could possibly give us the verbiage in the form of an email that would, tells me, number one, how much money is in there and then how that money can be spent.
So clarification as to
Yeah,
what
because
it's for.
everybody's,
For
we-
different, yeah.
I've said it a couple times at meetings, why don't we use that money? But we can't, because there's some special rule that there's a restriction.
Truthfully, you should post it on the website.
On the page, on the Heights page?
Yep.
That's not a bad idea.
Or right on the front page, because then people will know where to go to look for it, and then when we have when we get questions, we can refer them and
But could
it's
we
there.
still, could we
I
still get
agree,
it as
we
an
can still
email
get it
to
as an
all of
email,
us?
I agree, but then at least it can go out, and then you can send an email blast saying, hey, this is out there, and here's what it is.
There was no opposition to meeting October 26th, right? Nobody opposed that. Okay, cool. Just making sure. Yeah, that makes sense. That's, seems
I
like
just
a
don't
reasonable-
understand that whole,
Yeah,
I have a copy of that. I went over to the town clerk.
When will we be getting all the
I
paperwork
don't have it with
for
me, Darren.
the warrant articles? Would we get those like a week before or 2 weeks before?
Yep, so the warrant closes October 13th.
Yeah.
At that time, I'm gonna send it to town council. I will ideally like to have them back within a
This
week
kind
if
of-
I
oh, you-
can
oh,
from
you-
town
yeah, you
council. So
guys
as
got
soon
that
as I
from
have
me
them
when I
back, I mean, I can send you the draft warrant with the understanding that it
whatever it
still
was.
hasn't been vetted by
Yeah.
town council.
First two
Because it's more the
sentences,
backup
mine
that we
were
need
annoying.
more than the official language.
Yeah, I
because the
already
official
have
language-
all of that stuff,
Yeah,
so I'm
because
happy to share that
I
once
think
the
if you share
13th
that, that'd be
happens.
great, because then we can all start looking and asking questions versus getting it, cause we won't get it in best case
Yeah.
scenario, and then got 6 days during the week versus if we have some time.
Yep, I already have
Thank you.
the warrant drafted, and I'm just kind of adding as I'm getting warrant articles, so I'll have it ready by Monday the 16th.
Perfect.
And then I can compile all the supporting documentation into like one PDF, so it's all in one, and I can definitely share that with you guys, and that'll be 10 days ahead of the meeting.
Thank you.
to place an article as a citizen on this special town meeting, that's 150,
100.
100.
Yep, you need 100 signatures for special and 10 for annual. And it would have to be received by October 13th at noon
For the special,
for the special.
okay.
Yep.
anything in other than what was just discussed? Any other?
Business?
Any other?
I have a motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Okay.
Almost took those thinking.
7:38.